Hi, I'm Kyle Randolph. I'm a technical specialist here at JumpCloud in Boulder. Welcome to our onboarding video series. So today I'm going to be talking to you about our Google Apps integration. Before we begin, I want to let you know that we'll be discussing first the connection of Google Apps with JumpCloud's directory as a service. Then I'm going to show you importing a user from Google Apps. After that, I'm going to show you how an employee can change their information from JumpCloud and have it take effect within Google Apps. And then lastly, I'm going to show you provisioning of accounts from JumpCloud into Google Apps. So before we begin, you can see here I have our JumpCloud Administrators console, and I'm going to go ahead and log in there, as well as the Administrator console within Google Apps. And then lastly, for showing the importation of a user, I have my Michael Faraday user here that I'll be importing into JumpCloud. So let's begin. After logging into the administrative console, I'm going to go ahead and navigate to directories. From here, you can see that we have an Active Directory, Google Apps, and Office 365 integration. We're going to be focusing today on our Google Apps integration. Now, this is an API level integration with Google Apps, so before beginning, we need to ensure that we have the API access enabled within Google Apps. So I'm going to navigate back to the Google Apps admin console, navigate to Security, API Reference, and then right here, you want to choose to have Enable API Access. Once this is enabled, I'm going to import Google Apps users. You should also note that in order to activate or authorize the Google Apps sync, you have to be a super admin within Google Apps. So I've already entered in my super admin credentials, so I'm going to select Import Google Apps Users. Now I can either choose to import all users, or in this case, I'm just going to be importing my Michael Faraday user. And as I showed before, you can see here that I have my Michael Faraday user freshly created right here. So I'm going to go ahead and select Import Users. You can see that the user has been successfully imported and added now into my JumpCloud Administrative Console. I'm going to close here and now navigate back to users. You can see as I scroll through my users list that I have a variety of users with different statuses. And most specifically, my Michael Faraday user is in an inactive state. And this is done intentionally so that you as an admin have the time to educate your users before JumpCloud takes ownership of those accounts. So I'm going to go ahead and now navigate to completing the integration with Michael Faraday and Google Apps. To do so, I'm going to select directories under user details for my Michael Faraday user, and then I'm going to go ahead and select Google Apps. Now, when I select Save, what happens is this Michael Faraday user is going to receive a welcome email to JumpCloud. And at this point, when Michael updates his password, JumpCloud will become authoritative. And I'll show you in greater detail what this is going to look like. So I'm going to save my Michael Faraday user. And now I'm going to navigate over to Michael Faraday's email. Going to refresh the page, and you can see here that I now have an email from JumpCloud. We have a variety of helpful content included in this email explaining to the user what the directory level integration is between JumpCloud and Google Apps. But for this, I'm going to go ahead and select Get Started and update my password for Michael Faraday. And before I enter in a correct password, I want to show you what it looks like for a password that does not abide by the standards that you have set for security. So you can see here that the password must be 8 or more characters. So I'm going to go ahead and enter in a password that is up to the standards you set as an administrator. I'm going to select Reset Password. And now I am taken to the user portal for my Michael Faraday user. We have a variety of different integrations, including our SSO, so your user can now gain access to those SSO apps. But in this case, I want to show you that changes can also be made from JumpCloud for your user and then pushed to Google Apps. So let's say that our Michael Faraday user is a little bit less formal than the admin who put his name in. So I'm going to change his name to Mike. Now, when I select Save, this change is pushed immediately over to Google Apps. So let's take a look at what that looks like. Now you can see within Google Apps, my Michael Faraday user has now been changed to Mike Faraday. You can also change other information in here, ranging from their phones, addresses, and so on. Now, let's say that unfortunately our Michael Faraday user has left the company. So we need to remove Michael's access to his resources, in this case, Google Apps. To do so, as I created that sync with Google Apps via the tag, I'm going to navigate back to Mike Faraday into directories and deselect him from Google Apps. Now, when I hit Save User, Mike Faraday's account will be put into an inactive state. So let's take a look. I'm going to go ahead and refresh my page within the Google Apps admin console. And when I do, you can see now that my Mike Faraday user has disappeared from our list of active users. If I navigate down to suspended users, we'll now see that our Mike Faraday user has been put in a suspended state. And this is all done immediately from JumpCloud to Google Apps. And lastly, I'd like to show you the experience of creating a user from JumpCloud that is then pushed into Google Apps. So I'm going to go ahead and get this back to our active users list. And now I'm going to go ahead and create my new user. I'm going to create Jonathan James. One important note as I'm creating this user is that their domain must match that of the Google Apps domain. So you can see here that I've typed in demo JumpCloud. Now I'm going to actually set a password for this user as a means of pre-activating this user into Google Apps so that they have immediate access. So I'm going to put in a secure password for them, navigate to directories, and then select Save User after selecting Google Apps. Now, when I select Save User, this user is being pushed to Google Apps. So if I refresh my page, we now see our new user, Jonathan James, that has been provisioned from JumpCloud into Google Apps. So, in conclusion, we've covered the connection of Google Apps with JumpCloud's directory as a service, followed by the importation of a user and the removing of that user from Google Apps. Then we continued on to discuss how an employee can change their information from JumpCloud and have it take effect within Google Apps. And then lastly, we showed the provisioning of users from JumpCloud into Google Apps. Thank you. If you'd like to learn more about this topic, please navigate to our knowledge base at support.jumpcloud.com. Or if you'd like to speak to a member of our team about our platform, please email us at customersuccess@jumpcloud.com. Otherwise, subscribe below to stay tuned for the next episode. Thank you.